Good morning. It is Wednesday, the 24th of May, 2023, and I'm reading out of Winged Pharaoh by Joan Grant. It is a far memory book of hers. It was her first one. It was published in 1937. I have all the description in my uploaded BitChute and YouTube. This plays in ancient Egypt before the time of Babylon, before the Great Flood. It's fascinating, and I continue here in the third part of the book, chapter 15. She is Sekita here in this life, who is training to co-rule as Pharaoh in Kham. Her brother is the ruler at the moment because Father Atet died. Sebtis. Some there may be who, being in the first incarnation of training, came only twice a year to the temple to be examined as to their progress in their work, which they did in their own homes. Only when it was hoped that they would be ready to pass one of the 3 grades of initiation did they live in the temple. When I was 19, a girl called Sebtis, who had been expected to pass the first test of lookers, was driven from the temple. Although we all knew that she was disgraced, none were told what she had done to merit her being despised by all who knew her, for they that are banished from a temple for being unworthy are the lowest in the land. I asked Nesera what Sebtis had done, and he told me that she had been lying with one of the stonemasons who were working on the new court. I said, "Here there are priests and priestesses who are married and have borne children. They are married, and this world was not. But an action to be right must be right always, and that which is wrong cannot be altered by ceremony. How is it that she is unworthy while Nasa and her husband are honored?" And he said, "Sekita, you are right. Ceremony cannot change a wrong, but it should be a symbol of an inward rightness. The spirits of Nasa and her husband love each other, and are glad that their bodies should be united upon earth, and that children should be born, both of their bodies and their spirits." Sebtis knew that she was not well, that it was not well for her to lie with this man, for she had loved him. She would have wished to make him her husband and to share his life, even though he was a poor man, and she the daughter of a noble. But though she knew she loved him not, yet her body was eager for his, and her pulses clamoured for him so loudly that she did not listen to the voice of her spirit. One whose will is not strong enough to order his own body is not ready to be trained how to sharpen a will that is so easily mastered. I asked Nesera what made a woman an adulteress, and he said, "There are 2 kinds of adultery. The first is a woman who lies with a man when the voice of her own experience tells her that it is unwise. This is wrong because in being mastered by her body she has weakened her will. But all of us, when we are young in spirit, pass through this stage, and we must reap unhappiness from it, just as they who cannot control their anger or their greed must reap the consequences, which are often most unpleasant. But what is meant by the law against adultery? I mean, not the laws of man, but one of the great laws that are not written upon the earth, is a woman who lies with a man, although the voice both of her body and her spirit cry out against it, and who does this for gold or worldly gains. And in the degrees of the gain, so do the consequences of her action increase. A woman who is hungry and lies with a man for a meal has done little against the law. But she who lies with a man for great riches, perhaps it may be that she marries a noble or a rich merchant, has done much against it, and she will spend many tears in its adjustment." And I said, "When I was at the palace for the festival of Anubis, the vizier of the tortoise land was at the feast, and with him was his wife, the daughter of a rich merchant. I noticed that when she looked at him there was hatred in her eyes. She was conscious of her new nobility, as one who had it by right would never be. She married the vizier of Isa to gain position as his wife. Is she then one with the women who dwell near the soldiers' court?" Nesera said, "If what you say of her is true, and the vizier dwells not in her heart, but only in her bed, then it would be unjust to the soldiers' women to compare her with them, for they may love the men they take to bed. What of the woman who lies with a man to get food for a child or for someone she loves? If she does it, not for her own gain, but so that she may give to another, then she has done no wrong. In sacrificing herself to another may not go hungry, she has done as well as one who shields a friend in battle. Remember, Sakita, it's unwise to judge until you are in a position to know the hearts of those who you would pronounce upon. Even though you know all the circumstances of an action, you must also know the age of the spirit of the doer. There's no wrong in a lion not recognizing his cub when it is 2 years old, but all would cry out against a man who turned against his child, for a man is older than a lion and therefore has greater responsibilities. For a young one to be obscured by the pleasuring of his body is a little matter, but in one whose will is trained it would be a degradation, for that will to be clouded by earth. That is why adultery for one in a temple is accounted a sin, not because it is wrong for a woman to lie with a man, but because it is wrong for her to do so against the voice of her experience. It would be unworthy for one in a temple to lie with one whom she or he did not wish to share her life. If they knew that their spirits also walked together, then would they wish to proclaim it by vowing their unity before a priest? Remember always that in anything you may do, if in the truest weighing of your heart you find there is no shame, then that action cannot be unworthy, and so for you must be right. And at the end of the journey for all of us must come a time when we look back over all our lives and see all that has helped us on our way and all that has retarded us. But every action of which we can say in true sincerity, that I did not for myself, but because I loved another better, must be a step along the true path. Even one who joins the train of Set because his master leaves the brotherhood gains in the loyalty that he has shown if he has followed after one he loved and not for what he hoped to gain for himself. Sometimes, to help others, men break little laws. If a woman steals bread when she can find no other way to get it for her hungry child, though in the eyes of man she is a thief, before the gods she is higher than anyone who from fear lets her child starve. And although she will owe the baker the loaf of bread, which in some life or time she must repay, she will find that what she has gained in courage is like a piece of gold besides a grain of sand. Then is thieving well, as long as it is for another. Only if all other ways of getting food have failed. But first one must be willing to do any work, to carry water or to clean out a filthy byre or anything one's hand may find to do, and even then only after one has prayed that one may not have to become a thief. I asked what the next life would be of a woman, such as the wife of the vizier of the tortoise, and he said, without knowing all the circumstances of her, I cannot tell you. But once a woman came to the temple for help, and to give it I had to look up her records. I found that in a previous life she had been a beautiful dancing girl, and she had married the son of a noble for what he could give her, although she had no love or charity for him in her heart. In this present life she was the daughter of a captain of the northern garrison. Her body became filled with longing for one of the officials of the court of Sadok, when he visited your father the year before their invasion of our country. Against the wishes of her father she returned to Suma as his wife. When she was far from her own people, she found he was cruel and a bitter man, who delighted to humiliate her before her guests, for he hated the people of Calm. Yet although she feared and despised him, she could not throw off her deep longing for him. And because of this she suffered anything he did to her. Only at his death did she return to Calm, and she found that her father had been killed in the last battle against the Zumas, and she had no relatives to whom she could go. Now she looks after the motherless children of the overseer of the vineyard. So she, who once had taken everything and given not even gratitude in exchange, in this life gave herself and all her heart, but received nothing. And I asked why she had felt this passion for the Zuma. It may be that she had some debt to pay to him, Or it may be that this attraction of the body was decreed by the gods for the adjustment of the scales and the gaining of experience. Sometimes this is done so that, because of it, people will undergo things which otherwise they would refuse to suffer, and sometimes so that two people who are chained together by hatred may free themselves from their bonds. For in every marriage, however unhappy, something of tolerance and understanding is learned. Bodies may seek bodies through the will of the gods, but the call of spirit to spirit can be only from shared experience. And a true marriage is where two who journey together along the same path help and comfort each other in their exile. Well, that was very interesting. Happy Wednesday.